You're telling us you're marrying her?
Yes. A waitress?
Ethan, you can't marry that girl. She's only after your money.
To everyone around him, Lily Brooks was just a waitress who didn't belong in his world. But Ethan saw something nobody else could see. She wasn't impressed by his wealth. She didn't even know who he was. And that was exactly why Ethan fell for her. Ethan Carter had everything most people dreamed of: a billion-dollar company, a luxurious lifestyle, and a name that opened every door. But behind the success was a man who had become surrounded by people who loved his money more than they loved him. Every night, he returned to a house filled with expensive things, but empty of genuine connection. The people around him knew his wealth, his achievements, and his influence, but very few knew Ethan himself. To the world, Ethan Carter was a man who had won in life, but success had taught him a painful lesson. Not everyone standing beside you is truly there for you. He began to wonder if the life he built was actually the life he wanted, because having everything meant nothing when you had no one you could truly trust. Far away from Ethan's world of luxury and power was Lily Brooks. She lived a completely different life. She wasn't rich, famous, or connected, but she had something Ethan rarely saw anymore: genuine kindness.
What can I get for you?
Just a coffee, please.
Long day?
Why do you ask?
Because you look like someone who needs a break.
Ethan Carter had everything most people dreamed of: a billion-dollar company, a luxurious lifestyle, and a name that opened every door. But behind the success was a man who had become surrounded by people who loved his money more than they loved him. Every night, he returned to a house filled with expensive things, but empty of genuine connection. The people around him knew his wealth, his achievements, and his influence, but very few knew Ethan himself. To the world, Ethan Carter was a man who had won in life, but success had taught him a painful lesson. Not everyone standing beside you is truly there for you. He began to wonder if the life he built was actually the life he wanted, because having everything meant nothing when you had no one you could truly trust. Far away from Ethan's world of luxury and power was Lily Brooks. She lived a completely different life. She wasn't rich, famous, or connected, but she had something Ethan rarely saw anymore: genuine kindness.
Coffee, please.
Long day?
Why do you ask?
Because you look like someone who needs a break.
After that first day, Ethan found himself returning to the cafe more often, not because of the coffee, but because for the first time in years, someone treated him like an ordinary person. Lily didn't know about his billions. She didn't care about his company or his reputation. She simply saw a tired man sitting in front of her and treated him with kindness. For the first time in a long time, Ethan wasn't thinking about business deals, investments, or his next achievement. He was thinking about one person who had no idea how much she had changed his world.
Sir, your schedule is full tomorrow. You have 3 meetings with investors.
Cancel the evening meeting.
Is everything okay?
For once, yes.
While Ethan was discovering a feeling he thought he had lost forever, Lily had no idea that the quiet customer who visited her cafe was about to change her life completely. Days turned into weeks, and what started as a simple conversation became something neither Ethan nor Lily expected. They came from completely different worlds, but somehow they understood each other. Ethan discovered that Lily wasn't impressed by luxury. She enjoyed simple things, the conversations, the laughter, and the moments where they could just be themselves. Ethan knew he couldn't hide the truth forever. The closer they became, the harder it was to keep the biggest part of his life a secret.
I should have told you earlier.
Wait, you're Ethan Carter?
Yes,
Why didn't you tell me?
because I wanted to know if you liked me, not my name.
For Lily, everything suddenly changed. The man she thought she knew was actually one of the most powerful people in the world. And for the first time, she wondered if their connection was real, or if she had been living in a different reality. Lily had always believed Ethan was different, but discovering he was a billionaire made her question everything. She wondered why a man like him would choose to spend time with someone like her.
Lily, I never wanted you to fit into my world. I wanted to build something real with you.
She has changed him.
That's exactly the problem.
You think she wants his heart?
No. I think she wants his empire.
Ethan tried to show Lily that money had never been the reason he cared about her. But the world around him constantly reminded her that their lives were completely different. The moment the world discovered Ethan was dating Lily, the judgment began. People who had never met her decided they knew her intentions. And for the first time since meeting Ethan, Lily began to wonder if loving him would cost her more than she ever imagined.
You don't have to face this alone.
But what if they're right?
They don't know you.
Maybe they know your world better than I do.
The moment Ethan brought Lily into his world, she discovered that being loved by a billionaire came with a price. Every room they entered came with questions, whispers, and people trying to understand why someone like her was standing beside him. For years, Ethan had been judged for his success, but Lily was facing a different kind of judgment. People weren't questioning what she built. They were questioning whether she deserved to stand beside him. Behind closed doors, Lily struggled with a fear she never admitted. She wondered if she was slowly losing herself while trying to fit into a world that was never designed for her. Ethan noticed the change in Lily. The woman who once laughed freely was now carrying the weight of opinions from people who barely knew her. While Ethan was focused on protecting his relationship, Richard Carter was focused on something else. He saw Lily's arrival as a weakness he could use against Ethan. Even with the pressure around them, Ethan and Lily believed their love could overcome anything. They didn't know that the biggest challenge would not come from strangers or the media. It would come from someone inside Ethan's own family. As Ethan's relationship with Lily grew stronger, the tension inside his family grew deeper. They could accept many things about Ethan's choices, but they struggled to accept the woman he had chosen. The Carter family had spent generations building their reputation. To them, status, wealth, and image were everything. And Lily represented everything they believed did not belong in their circle. But while Victoria worried about the family's reputation, Richard saw something different. He saw an opportunity. A new person in Ethan's life meant a new weakness he could exploit. The criticism followed Lily everywhere. People who had never spoken to her created a story about her based only on who she loved. Ethan wanted to protect Lily from everything that came with his name, but he was beginning to realize that love alone could not silence the voices attacking her. Richard knew Ethan had always been careful with business, but now, for the first time, Ethan had something more valuable than his company to lose. He had someone he loved. Ethan had spent his entire life making decisions based on business, but this time, he made a decision that shocked everyone around him. he decided he would no longer hide the woman he loved. When Ethan publicly introduced Lily as the woman he wanted beside him, the world reacted immediately. Some celebrated their love. Others questioned every part of it. Overnight, Lily's quiet life disappeared. She was no longer just a waitress. She became a person everyone had an opinion about. Ethan wanted Lily to ignore the noise. He believed that if they stayed true to themselves, people would eventually understand. But Lily knew something Ethan didn't. While everyone focused on Ethan's personal life, Richard quietly began moving pieces behind the scenes. He knew public attention could become a powerful weapon. Despite all the criticism, Ethan was certain about one thing. He didn't want to spend his life proving their love to the world. He wanted to spend his life building it with Lily. Despite all the doubts, criticism, and pressure surrounding them, Ethan and Lily made a choice. They decided that the opinions of others would not determine their future. For Ethan, it was the happiest day of his life. He wasn't choosing a wife because of her background, her connections, or her status. He was choosing the person who made him feel loved for who he truly was. But their wedding did not end the criticism. In fact, for Lily, it was only the beginning of a new battle. Becoming Ethan Carter's wife changed everything. She entered a world of wealth and influence, but she quickly realized that living in that world was very different from simply visiting it. While Ethan was building a new life with Lily, Richard was studying every possible way to regain control. To him, Lily was not family. She was a threat. At that moment, Ethan and Lily believed they had finally overcome the hardest part. They didn't know that the greatest test of their love was still waiting for them. Marriage changed Lily's life overnight. She went from serving customers in a small cafe to living inside one of the most powerful families in the country. But deep down, she still felt like a visitor in Ethan's world. To Ethan, Lily was already part of his family. But not everyone inside the mansion felt the same way. Some people were waiting for her to prove that she belonged. Every gathering reminded Lily that she was different. She wasn't judged by her heart or her character. She was judged by where she came from. But Richard's attention was no longer only on Lily. While everyone was distracted by the new marriage, he was quietly examining the one thing he wanted most: Ethan's empire. Ethan believed love had finally given him something money never could: a person who cared about him, not his achievements. But he didn't realize someone else was preparing to challenge everything they had built. The world saw Ethan and Lily's marriage as a love story. But behind the walls of the Carter mansion, a different story was beginning to unfold.
Richard understood something that nobody else did. Destroying Ethan directly would never work. But if he could weaken the people Ethan trusted, everything else would become much easier. Behind closed doors, meetings began taking place that Ethan knew nothing about. Quiet conversations, hidden agreements, and the first pieces of a dangerous plan slowly fell into place. While Richard was building his plan, Lily continued living exactly as she always had. She had no idea that someone had already started watching her every move. Business had never been better. Ethan believed his company was stronger than ever. Unfortunately, the greatest threats rarely announce themselves before they arrive. Richard wasn't acting out of anger. Every move was carefully calculated. He wasn't planning to attack Ethan's business first. He was planning to attack Ethan's peace. As Ethan and Lily looked toward a future filled with hope, someone else was already preparing to turn that future into their greatest nightmare. With every passing day, Ethan became more occupied with expanding his company. He believed everything was finally falling into place, never realizing that danger had already entered from within. Richard knew that powerful companies rarely collapsed because of outside enemies. Most of them fell because someone on the inside quietly opened the door. Lily continued using her new position to help people. She believed kindness always spoke louder than criticism. Unfortunately, someone was collecting every opportunity to twist her good intentions. Then the first move was made. Anonymous information began circulating quietly. Nothing dramatic, just enough to plant doubt in the minds of the people Ethan trusted most. Rumors spread much faster than facts. Within days, small questions became quiet conversations, and quiet conversations slowly turned into suspicion. That night, Ethan believed he had simply experienced another difficult day at work. He had no idea it was only the beginning of a carefully planned attack that would soon threaten everything he loved. The anonymous messages had done exactly what they were meant to do. Nobody knew who started them, but almost everyone had already begun believing them. Within hours, rumors escaped the walls of the company. Blogs, social media pages, and gossip websites turned private speculation into public headlines. For the first time since marrying Ethan, Lily realized that people were no longer attacking her because she was a waitress. They were beginning to accuse her of something much worse. Richard never needed people to know the truth. He only needed them to doubt it. Ethan refused to panic. He had survived business crises before. But this time, the attacks weren't aimed at his company alone. They were aimed at the people he loved. Neither of them realized that the rumors were only the opening move. The real attack had not even begun. Ethan knew rumors could destroy a reputation. So instead of responding emotionally, he hired a private investigation team to find out who was really behind the attacks. The investigators followed every message, every leaked document, and every anonymous account. The deeper they looked, the more they realized this wasn't random. Someone had planned every step. For the first time since his plan began, Richard became uneasy. He couldn't explain it, but something told him Ethan was getting closer to the truth. Then everything changed. A single mistake exposed a trail that connected every anonymous message, every leaked document, and every false accusation. When Ethan saw the first name connected to the conspiracy, he froze. It wasn't an outside competitor. It wasn't a stranger. The betrayal had come from someone much closer. At that moment, Ethan realized his greatest battle was never against business rivals. It was against someone who had been standing beside him all along. Ethan refused to believe the report immediately. He read every document himself, hoping the investigators had made a mistake. But the evidence only became stronger with every page. Every missing piece finally connected. Anonymous accounts, leaked company files, manipulated stories, and hidden financial transactions all pointed back to the same mastermind. Richard believed he had covered every trace. He had spent months building the perfect plan. What he didn't know was that one overlooked detail had already exposed everything. When Lily finally saw the investigation report, she understood why everything had happened. None of the attacks had been accidental. Every rumor had been carefully designed to destroy their marriage and Ethan's reputation. For a brief moment, they considered staying silent to protect the family name. But they quickly realized that silence would only protect the people responsible. By sunrise, Ethan had made his decision. He wasn't going to fight with anger. he was going to fight with the truth. And before the day ended, the Carter family would never be the same again. That morning, Ethan called for a meeting unlike any the Carter family had ever experienced. No one knew why they had been summoned, but everyone could feel something was different. For several seconds, Ethan said nothing. He simply looked around the room at the people he had trusted for years. Some avoided his eyes. Others waited impatiently for him to speak. Then, Ethan placed the investigation report on the table. Page after page revealed evidence that someone inside the family had been working against him for months. For the first time since his plan began, Richard wasn't in control. The confidence that had carried him for months slowly started disappearing.
I spent months wondering who wanted to destroy my family. I never imagined I'd find the answer sitting at this table.
What were you saying?
No one spoke. The silence inside the room became heavier than any accusation. And for Richard, it was the first sign that his carefully constructed empire of lies was beginning to collapse. Most people expected Richard to panic. Instead, he smiled. Years of manipulation had taught him one lesson. Confidence often looked more believable than innocence.
Accusing family members because of a few papers? Ethan, I expected better from you.
For a brief moment, doubt returned to the room. Richard had always been persuasive. He knew exactly how to make guilty people sound innocent. But Ethan had anticipated Richard's denial. That was why he hadn't come with accusations alone. He had come with evidence that couldn't be explained away.
These aren't accusations, Richard. They're your emails, your bank transfers, your meetings, and your phone records. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed this entire family. Ethan, I can explain.
Richard finally realized something he had never prepared for. There was no lie powerful enough to erase the truth once everyone had seen it. For the first time in a very long time, Richard had no answer. Every excuse he had prepared collapsed under the weight of undeniable evidence.
You want the truth? Fine. I was tired of watching you get everything. The company, the respect, the inheritance, everything was always handed to you while I stood in your shadow.
The investigation had uncovered the crime, but Richard's confession uncovered something much older. Years of jealousy that had quietly grown into hatred. As painful as Richard's words were, Ethan finally understood something. This had never been about money. It had never been about Lily. It had always been about envy.
If you had asked for my help, I would have given it. But instead you chose to destroy the people who never stopped treating you like family.
Sometimes the greatest punishment isn't prison. It's realizing you destroyed your own family because of a battle that only existed inside your own heart. Richard's confession answered every question. But for Ethan, knowing the truth wasn't enough. Actions had consequences, and betrayal couldn't simply be forgiven because it was committed by family. Unknown to everyone in the room, Ethan had already contacted the authorities before the meeting began. He wanted the truth to be handled legally, not emotionally.
Richard Carter, based on the evidence gathered during our investigation, you are under arrest for corporate fraud, financial conspiracy, evidence manipulation, and criminal defamation.
You have the right to outrage.
The man who had spent months controlling everyone else could no longer control his own future. His lies had finally caught up with him. Ethan didn't celebrate Richard's arrest. There was no victory in watching family fall apart. There was only relief that the truth had finally been revealed. The conspiracy was over. The lies had been exposed. But rebuilding trust after betrayal would become a journey far longer than exposing the truth itself. The news spread across the country. The man many believed was one of the pillars of the Carter family was now known as the person who almost destroyed it. But Ethan knew the arrest was only the beginning. Richard's actions had damaged more than relationships. They had affected employees, investors, and everyone who depended on the company. While Ethan focused on rebuilding the company, Lily focused on rebuilding trust. She knew many people still saw her as an outsider, but she refused to let their opinions define her.
I thought marrying you meant I had finally escaped the life I came from, but I realized something. Love doesn't remove problems. It gives you someone to face them with.
And I realized something too. Protecting you doesn't mean hiding you from the world. It means standing beside you when the world turns against you.
For Victoria, the hardest part was accepting that someone she loved had chosen a path that destroyed everything around him. The battle had changed them both. They were no longer the same people who entered the Carter mansion months earlier. They had lost trust, faced betrayal, and survived the storm together. Months passed after Richard's arrest. The pain was still there, but the Carter family slowly learned that surviving a storm was only the first step. The next step was rebuilding. Ethan decided that the company would not simply return to what it was before. He wanted to build something stronger, something based on trust instead of fear. Lily also found her place. The same people who once questioned her intentions began seeing what Ethan had seen from the beginning. Her heart was never interested in his wealth. It was always interested in helping people. Despite everything that had changed, Ethan and Lily never forgot where their story began. Before the mansion, before the company, before the wealth, they were simply two people who found each other.
Do you ever regret choosing this life with me?
No, because I didn't choose the money, Ethan. I chose you.
I love you.
People thought Lily married Ethan because of his fortune. They thought their love would collapse when challenges came. But they were wrong. Because true love is not proven when everything is easy. It is proven when everything tries to tear it apart. Just when life finally seemed peaceful again, Lily discovered something unexpected. Something that would reveal a part of Ethan's past she never knew existed. Inside the box were memories Ethan had kept hidden for years. But one letter stood out among everything else. A letter that was never meant to be forgotten. Before Ethan became the successful businessman everyone admired, he was just a young man trying to survive the pressure of carrying a family name. The letter revealed a side of Ethan that the world never saw. Behind the confidence, the success, and the wealth was someone who had spent years feeling alone.
Why did you never tell me about this part of your life?
Because everyone already saw me as someone who had everything. I didn't want anyone to see the things I was still trying to heal from.
That night, Lily realized something important. She had fallen in love with Ethan's success, but she was now learning to love the wounds and battles that shaped him. For years, Ethan carried painful memories that no one knew about. But after sharing them with Lily, the burden that had followed him for so long finally began to feel lighter. The mansion no longer felt divided. The fear, suspicion, and betrayal had been replaced by something the Carter family hadn't experienced in a very long time: peace. Despite her new life, Lily never forgot where she came from. She returned to the places that shaped her, proving that success should never erase humility. Together, Ethan and Lily decided that their greatest success wouldn't be measured by wealth. It would be measured by how many lives they could change. Some people enter your life to bring pain. Others enter your life to bring healing. Ethan and Lily survived betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. But in the end, they discovered that love built on trust will always outlive lies built on greed being bait. A year later, Carter Corporation looked different. Not because the buildings had changed, but because the people inside them had. Ethan introduced new values that placed honesty above profit and people above power. He was determined that no one would ever use the company the way Richard had. Lily became a source of inspiration to many. She reminded people that your background may explain where you started, but it never has to decide where you finish. Meanwhile, Richard had nothing left except time to think. Every decision driven by jealousy had cost him the one thing he could never replace: his family.
Do you think people will remember everything that happened?
Maybe, but I hope they remember something even more important, that love, truth, and integrity always have the final word.
Their story was never really about wealth, status, or power. It was about two ordinary hearts that chose faithfulness over fear, forgiveness over bitterness, and truth over deception. And that became the greatest legacy they could ever leave behind. Time has a way of revealing what truly matters. 2 years after everything they survived, Ethan and Lily finally understood that their greatest success had never been the company. It was the lives they had changed. Every success story they witnessed reminded them why they refused to let bitterness define their future. Pain had become purpose. Even the Carter family found healing. The wounds had not disappeared completely, but forgiveness had given everyone a chance to move forward. Looking back, they realized every difficult chapter had prepared them for something greater. Without the struggles, they would never have become the people they were today.
If I had to live this life again with every betrayal and every heartbreak, I'd still choose you.
And I'd still say yes every single time.
People often believe that happy endings happen because life becomes easy. But the truth is different. Happy endings belong to those who refuse to give up on love, refuse to surrender to hatred, and refuse to let darkness have the final word. 5 years passed. Businesses grew, buildings became taller, success became greater. But none of those things became Ethan and Lily's greatest achievement. Every smiling face reminded them that true wealth isn't measured by the money you keep. It's measured by the lives you leave better than you found them. Looking back, they no longer remembered the pain first. They remembered the lessons. They remembered the people who stood beside them. And they remembered how every setback became a stepping stone. Even Richard eventually understood a painful truth. Jealousy never steals another person's future. It quietly steals your own.
Do you know what our greatest blessing was?
Finding each other and refusing to let the world change who we were.
They said she was after his money. They said their marriage would never survive. They said love like theirs only existed in fairy tales. They were wrong. Because when trust is stronger than temptation, and love is stronger than betrayal, even the darkest chapters can become the beginning of a beautiful ending. 10 years passed. Time changed many things, but one truth never changed. The greatest victories in life are never the ones you build with money. They're the ones you build with character. People admired Ethan because he built a successful company, but they loved him because he never allowed success to change his heart. Lily became living proof that where you begin has nothing to do with where you can finish. Her story inspired thousands of people who had almost given up on themselves.
Every picture carried a memory. Some brought laughter. Others reminded them of painful seasons. But together, they told the story of a love that refused to break.
If our story helps even one person choose love over hate, then every painful chapter was worth it.
Because every scar we carry became someone else's reason to keep believing.
Some stories end with revenge. Others end with victory. But the greatest stories end with transformation. Ethan and Lily proved that betrayal doesn't have to define your future. Love, integrity, and forgiveness can build a legacy that outlives every lie. And sometimes, trusting the right person changes your life forever. Every journey has an ending. Ours wasn't perfect, but it was real. Looking back, we realized every heartbreak, every betrayal, and every difficult decision had quietly led us here. The greatest chapters of our lives were never the easy ones. They were the moments that forced us to choose faith instead of fear, forgiveness instead of revenge, and love instead of pride. Money built buildings. Love built people. And in the end, people became the legacy we were most proud of.
If I could relive my entire life, I'd still choose you.
And I'd still trust you every single time.
People once believed she trusted the wrong man. But the truth was far simpler. She trusted the right man. And together, they overcame the wrong people. Some people will test your heart. Some people will break your trust. But never stop believing that the right people still exist. Because sometimes, one faithful heart is all it takes to change your entire life. And that was the end of Ethan and Lily's story.